What is pop locking and or dropping, gamers? It's me, Stinger, Earth's representative of the Intergalactic Confederacy. And today I'm going to be showing all of you sweaty gremlins how to make groovy beats in the style of Lil Tecca's newest album, Plan A. And this is an album that I was thoroughly surprised by in a great way. Lil Tecca has shown that he can consistently put out good music and constantly appeal to his audience. And with the beat we're going over today, I wanted to match the groovy and bouncy and upbeat feeling of the entire album. So with that being said, the beat that we're going to be going over today sounds a little something like this. Alright, so the first thing we're going to go over today is the melody. And the first part of the melody that we're going to break down is the chords. Now, the chords that I'm using for this melody may look complex, but trust me, it's stupid simple. So we are in the key... One of my buttons isn't buttoned. So we are in the key of A major, and we're playing a progression going from the 6 to the 5 to the 1. Something that I noticed on a lot of the production of this album is descending chord progressions. And that's exactly what we're making use of, because the first chord is high, the second chord is lower, and then the next chord is even lower. And then for these chords, we're just making use of basic triads as well as seventh chords. Nothing too crazy. And then something you could do to make your melody more than just chords is derive some notes from the chords and build upon them with separate melodies. So with that being said, this is what our chords sound like. And I forgot to mention, but an instrument that's typically used in this kind of new jazz production is going to be an electric piano. And the one that I'm using is Stage 73 from Arturia, and I'm using the 1972 Latin Fusion preset. So now, the next part of the melody that we're going to go over is the layering. And there's two different layers. There's going to be a low layer and a high layer. And the first layer that we're going to go over is the low layer. And all we're doing to fill this low to mid frequency space in the melody is we're throwing in a pad playing those exact same chords, just in a lower octave. And now, to fill in that high range frequency, we're just using this bell playing a super simple high octave pattern. And something I recommend when making your counter melodies and lead melodies is that if you have a MIDI keyboard or even just a computer keyboard, make your melody using that rather than drawing it in, as you'll find yourself making melodies you might have never even thought of when just drawing it in. So with that being said, this is what the bell pattern sounds like. And now that we've covered layering, there's just going to be two more aspects of the melody I want to cover. The first of which is going to be to have something that emphasizes the offbeats. And for this, I'm just using this synth playing around with short and long notes. Having a melodic component that emphasizes the offbeats is really going to enhance the bounce of your melody. And now the final part of the melody that I want to go over is going to be the lead. And I recommend adding a lead to your melody for the sole purpose of introducing variation. So this section right here is the chorus. And for this first section, I am not playing the lead. And for the second section, I am playing the lead, but took out the bell. Having things that you can remove or insert at certain parts of your beat is really going to help with the variation of your beat and make it so that it's not just an 8-bar loop repeating over and over and over again. And for making leads, I really only have two tips. The first of which is the same as the bell, and it's to use a MIDI keyboard or a computer keyboard to make the melody. And the second of which is to use overlapping notes, as it helps make the lead sound less robotic. So with that being said, this is what our melody sounds like all together. And I'm just going to play this section right here without the lead, because if I played the whole thing, it'd be like a minute-long preview. Alright, so now that we've covered the melody, let's go over the next portion of this beat, which is the drums. I don't know why I'm like this. And for drums in this production style, I have 4 tips for you. The first of which is going to be to use short 808s playing a spaced out pattern. Doing this is going to help complement the natural bounce of the melody without like overcomplicating things. And the 808 that I'm using is just the Zay 808 with some mild distortion. The second tip that I have for you guys is to use bright sounds. And what I mean by that is sounds with a lot of high-end properties. And the sounds that really assist with bringing out these high, bright frequencies is going to be this snap, this snare, and this cymbal. Since these beats are generally pretty like uplifting and like positive sounding, so to speak, using brighter drum sounds is really going to help you achieve that theme. And now the third tip that I have for the drums is going to be to not use typical 2-step hi-hat patterns. Instead, you're going to want to make use of that signature new jazz hi-hat pattern, which essentially is just a variation of drill hi-hat patterns as it's using the same rhythm. So for the hi-hats, use that typical drill rhythm, make sure things are pretty spaced out, and don't be afraid to play around with rolls and variation in the octaves. So this is what a hi-hat pattern sounds like, making use of all of those techniques. And now the final tip that I have for you guys to make drums in the style of Lil Tecca's newest album is going to be to make use of tension and release by using short drum sounds and long drum sounds. And let me explain that concept using this beat. So in terms of long drum sounds, I have this cymbal yet again, as well as this snare with a shit ton of reverb on it. And all we're gonna do is introduce our short drum sounds like our 808, our snap, and our hi-hat before introducing the long components like the cymbal and the reverb snare. This is because those short components are gonna build the tension and the long components are going to release that tension. So as you can see right here, we're playing those short components in the beginning of the drum pattern. And after introducing those, we're gonna introduce the cymbal. Making use of short and long components not only affects the tension and release of the drums, but also just makes your drums much more interesting and gives them more depth. And then sorry, last thing for tension and release, but you can also make use of reverse open hats to kind of seal things together. So with that being said, this is what the drums sound like all together. Alright, so with that being said, that is going to completely cover how to make beats in the style of Lil Tecca's newest album, Plan A. I know we covered a lot of like broad concepts in this tutorial, so if you have any questions, please feel free to throw them in the comments down below and I will do my best to answer them. Also consider checking out my Patreon where I post the FLPs to all of my beats in all of my videos, including this one. That way, if you wanted to study the melody, the mixing, the drums, the arrangement, all that kind of stuff, it's right at your fingertips. And finally, consider subscribing as I post 1 tutorial a week and anywhere from 1 to 2 sound kits a month. Other than that, it's gonna be it. Peace!